Welcome to this week's installment of Motorcycle Monday. And finally, we have the much awaited for Triumph engine bar install video. So you'll see in front of me I have two boxes. One of these, this should be the upper engine bars in the smaller box, the lower engine bars in this larger box. And they do not come with the install instructions, so I'll link in the description the PDF, but I've got a printout here with me of the install instructions. You'll notice in these install instructions, you'll see a Roadster 400. I'm pretty sure that just means the Speed 400. So we're going to be following the Roadster 400 instructions, and unless we run into some sort of roadblock, and then we will address that. So we'll go ahead and get situated and start working on the motorcycle. But before I do, I want to give you a couple quick important information. For one, this is going to be the Speed 400 that I'm installing this on. If you have a Scrambler 400, I'm going to put a link in the description for another YouTuber that has an excellent Scrambler 400 video. So I would suggest if you're doing this on a Scrambler, you go check out his video. I expect they're very similar, and I did watch his video as some inspiration to find out any pitfalls here. So do everyone a solid and go take a look at his video either way and give him a nice thumbs up. But if you have a Speed 400, stick around with me and we'll see how to do the same process on the Speed 400. I'm going to be installing both sets, the upper and the lower. You can follow these instructions if you're doing one or the other, but you need to be aware that there are different spacers and different size bolts depending on whether you're doing the upper only, the lower only, or both. And so as you go through the instructions, you'll see that there's actually three sets of instructions in here. There's the upper, the lower, and then the instructions for both. You're going to want to skip over the upper and the lower and go straight to the instructions for both. Otherwise, you're going to end up using spaces you don't need, and it's going to become a little confusing, and you'll be doing some troubleshooting. So if you're doing both like me, just jump to the bottom. If you're only doing one or the other, follow the appropriate instructions, but keep in mind if you're watching this video and you're only doing one set, you may have to use slightly different options when it comes to the spacers and the length of the bolts and things like that. But the good news is everything you need for any combination of installs should be here in the box. So just be mindful that you're using the correct parts. The other thing that we're going to attempt to do is the instructions here are going to tell you to take the exhaust off. But it seems like most users are able to successfully install this without taking the exhaust all the way off and simply by loosening it. So we're going to give that a shot. If that doesn't work, we'll go ahead and take it off. But I think we're going to be able to make that work just fine. So without further ado, let's go take a look at the bike and we'll walk through the process together. And I will put a picture of all of the tools used in the video here, so you can collect everything in advance. I don't know yet which tools I'm going to need, so I'll have to edit that in. But come on, let's take a look at the motorcycle. We'll take a look at the way we've got it jacked up for this job, and get the bars on. So you'll notice here I've got two motorcycle lifts here that I'm planning on using for this job. I've already got the rear lifted up on this rear paddock stand. And if you're interested in this, I've got a review on this. So take a quick look at that if you don't have one yet. This is a good economical option. And the second style lift I have here is this scissor style lift. And we're going to use this because at some point in the install process, we're going to have to support the engine. So we're going to use this lift here, probably with a block of wood or something, so that we can support the engine without getting in the way of the exhaust. So first step, jack up the rear of your motorcycle and have a plan for how you're going to support the engine. Now we will grab the bars and get started. You can see now we've got the engine supported. So I have my scissor jack here with a block of wood. You can find just a scrap piece of wood or something else. You want something that's not going to mar the finish of the engine, but be sturdy enough to support the weight of the engine. So a piece of wood or a piece of rubber is just about perfect. So the instructions tell us essentially we're going to start with the upper engine bars. So what that means, I'm going to bring you up here a little bit. They're going to mount essentially in two places. This has a little plastic piece in here we're going to take out first. And then this big bolt here goes all the way through the engine. And so essentially we're going to end up removing this bolt and replacing with it from a new one from our kit. So that's what we're going to want to do here. What I'm going to do, even though I have the engine supported, just as an extra precaution, I'm going to leave a bolt in here just as some extra precaution in case anything were to fail with the way I have the engine supported. I'm not going to have to worry about the engine actually falling from the frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to loosen this bolt. Actually, first I'm going to remove these blank plastic caps because they're not doing anything. Then I'm going to loosen this bolt, and I'm going to fit the right and left upper engine bars. Everything's going to be just finger tight at this point. And I'm going to leave a long bolt in here as long as I can. I'm going to essentially use this as some extra precaution here. And I would recommend you do the same. We want to be very mindful that the engine not only doesn't not fall out of the motorcycle, which the rear supports will prevent, but we also want to make sure that the engine's not shifting in the motorcycle frame. So we're going to take this out very carefully. And there's no reason we need to touch the other engine mounts during this install, but just as a general rule, you never want to take more than one out at a time unless you're intending to remove the entire engine, because that will allow things to become misaligned, in which case you really have to know what you're doing to get it back into place. And that's certainly outside of what I'm intending to do here. So we'll get the black plastic caps removed. We will loosen but not yet remove the bolt, and then we will go ahead and get the upper bars in place. This is the black plastic cap. I'm just going to reach in here with a pair of pliers and carefully remove that cap. And you'll see a threaded hole there. And then we'll remove the one on the other side while we're here. Looks like we have a 16 millimeter. We have a 14 millimeter on the other side. I'm going to take my ratchet carefully, put my wrench, or for those on the other side of the Atlantic, your spanner. Actually, answer in the comments. I believe you call this a spanner in the UK. What do you call this? Is this a spanner as well? We would call this whole thing a wrench in the US and would call this a boxed wrench and this an open wrench. Just working on a Triumph, I need to learn the UK terms. Let me reposition you so you can see. This is the bolt we're taking out now. Or rather, this is the nut. Right? Got a bit of torque on it, but once we break it loose, it comes off rather easy. As someone used to working on old rusty cars, that's very nice. So we're going to set this aside. I'm not sure we're going to need this, but we don't want to lose it. And you can see here now this engine support is loose. So that's giving us pretty good confidence that our engine is well supported. If this is not loose, you need to adjust your engine support so that it is loose. There should be no friction on this rod if the engine's properly supported. So if this is tight, either you're not supporting the engine and it's falling onto the bolt, or you also want to not be lifting the motorcycle by the engine, in which case you're lifting the engine up and putting force the other way. So you want this to be in a very neutral position, hence the support. So we're going to leave this in for now, just as a little bit of extra insurance while we work. And now the instructions are going to tell us to start on the right side. So let's move to the other side of the motorcycle and we'll get the front or the upper right engine bar in place. We're now on the right side of the motorcycle, and we have our right side um, engine bar. So we're going to use the, you can see there's a built-in spacer that's for the bottom, and for the top, there's no built-in spacer, but in our kit, we have a bigger spacer and a bolt. So we're going to use these, put our bolt through, along with our spacer, and up here where we had removed that plastic cap, we're going to put this in just very loosely, just essentially finger tight. And you'll see here at the bottom is the other side of our bolt that we had loosened. So we'll go ahead and take that out and we'll put that through, and we'll slide the bolt back for now. We're going to use a different bolt before we're done, but we're just leaving that there to support the engine. And I'm going to just get a wrench and put just a turn or two on that. and this is a 12 millimeter. So we don't want this to be very tight, just enough to where it's not going to fall back off. All right, so that's our right side, and we will move back to the left side and repeat the same thing. We are now here on the left side, and the process is exactly the same. We've got the same pieces of hardware. We have our left side engine guard, and we're going to use that spacer to put our bolt first here in the top. Get a couple threads on that side, and that goes in nice and easy, finger tight. Now you'll notice here at the bottom that main engine supporting bolt is not long enough to put the bottom on. So we're going to just leave that aligned for now, and in an upcoming step we're going to put a longer engine bolt in. We're going to, I believe, use the one that came with the lower engine bar kit. But this is essentially it for the upper engine guards, and we're gonna switch and take a look at the lower engine guards now. Although of course we still have to finish these off at the end. The next thing the instructions ask us to do is to remove this this bolt and spacer that are holding the coolant guard on. So we'll do that, keeping the engine supported. Right, the bolt came right out. It is a 12 millimeter, and we have a spacer on the other side that is not wanting to come free at the moment. So I'm going to proceed slowly, and we will figure out how to remove that spacer as we go. Now that we have the coolant plate bolt removed, the next thing we have to do is to prepare the engine guards themselves to be installed. So I have here, this is the right hand side lower bar and this rubber sleeve. I'm going to place the rubber sleeve on this front bar. You can see it's got this flat spot on it where it's going to connect to the left bar. So it's a rather soft rubber sleeve, and for extra points you'll see there's a little Triumph logo on here. So go ahead and place it so that that Triumph logo is going to be right side up when it's mounted on the motorcycle, which would be like this. So we have the rubber sleeve on. The other thing we have to do to get this ready to install is we've got this little cross connector that we'll put in along with this machine screw, and we're just going to put it finger tight because you'll notice there's a little bit of slop in it, and we are going to have to connect it to the left hand side, so we want it to have just a little room to move around. This appears to be the the most difficult part of the install. So what we need to do is we need to place this right side engine guard so that this top hole aligns with the bolt we had removed earlier. And this bottom hole is going to fit where that the coolant tank spacer is or should have been. But to do this, it looks like we are going to have to loosen the exhaust, and we should be able to get this in place, hopefully without fully removing the exhaust. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the fittings on the exhaust here and see if we can't go ahead and get this into place. Right, after a bit of negotiating, I was able to get that bottom piece into position. I think the key is just to loosen the exhaust a little bit and pull it gently. You don't want to break anything, but just a little. Pull the exhaust gently while you wiggle the bar in. Uh, Careful not to bang anything or damage your finish. Um, but now everything on the right hand side is loosely in place. So I will check our directions and we'll move on to the next step. But so far, this has definitely been the most challenging part, but I expect that the rest will go fairly smoothly from here. And even this was not terribly challenging if you've got even a little bit of a mechanical experience, especially working on underneath of cars and around exhaust and in tight quarters. Then this really is not so difficult. We're back over on the left side of the motorcycle, and we're nearly finished. So the first step is going to be to get things into position. So we're going to want to get the upper bar in place, because that goes on the bottom. And then we'll want to take the lower bar, and first we will make sure we've removed this bolt on the bottom, the one that we took out earlier. And we can put that back for now. And here in the front, we will line everything up, and we will put our machine screw in. And we will just leave that finger tight for now. We take our nut from the kit that came with the lower engine bar, and we'll just put that on finger tight for now. We'll tighten that up. For the lower bar, you want both the spacer and the bolt from the kit. You're going to put the bolt through the engine bar, then through the spacer, then back into the original hole from where it came. And that's pretty much it. So you're going to go through, and everything has just been finger tightened for now. So you're going to want to tighten everything down to the appropriate torque specs, which you will find in the linked PDF. So I'm going to take care of that off camera, and then I will see you back up top with some key things that I think you should watch out for if you do this yourself. And there you have it. That's how you install both upper and lower engine bars on the Triumph Speed 400. All in all, it was pretty straightforward. The instructions are a little confusing the way they're broken into 3 different instructions for whether you're doing upper, lower, or both. So do pay attention and try to read them in advance and follow them carefully. But all the information you need is there. The only real tricky part about it was the lower right-hand side bar, the way you have to remove the spacer near the exhaust and replace the bar. But I would say I would call it like a medium level of difficulty. If you're someone who has any experience at all doing maintenance on either a car or a motorcycle or anything else with an engine, I think you'll have no problem doing this yourself. You can see here, I don't have a garage or a lift or anything fancy. You'll have no problem doing this out in your yard or your driveway. I do recommend you get a appropriate set of motorcycle lifts. I have review videos for the two that I used. They're both fairly inexpensive, and they both worked just perfectly on this job. So you don't need fancy, but I do recommend that um, you do get the right lift and do things carefully. Um, when you're done, you also want to do a quick once over and make sure everything's tightened back up. But all in all, if you're considering doing this yourself, I would say do it. My Triumph dealer wanted about $300 US to do this install. Um, Nothing against them; they're great people, very qualified mechanics. But the reality is, the skill that they have is really just overkill for something this simple. So if you're inclined to do so, I would say go ahead and be careful. The main thing you want to make sure is that you don't let the engine shift while you're working. But this is a pretty approachable project for a DIYer. Um, if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, share, give me comments, feedback. This is my first video of this type. If it was helpful, I'm more than happy to do more. If it didn't work out for you, let me know and I'll find some different content for the channel. But the good news is now we've got the bike ready. Um, we're going to be able to do some riding here soon. So stay tuned for some riding videos and more videos like this and whatever else you guys tell me you like. Thanks, and tune in next week for Motorcycle Monday.